Ich habe jetzt noch ein Catch the Eye. Anna Gomes,
yes.
bitte.
Well, I heard that BAS and other foreign multinationals are headed to the European Court of Justice, arguing that the competition commissioners acted beyond their powers in deciding that Belgium excess profits tax rulings constituted illegal state aid. Can you tell us more about your reading about that position of yours that leads you to go to the European Court of Justice? And recently the Commission has highlighted how VAT carousel system of fraud involving companies of all sorts actually engenders about 5 billion per year into to finance crime, including terrorism, including organizations such as Al-Qaeda. How does a company like BAS, with all this multinational system, actually prevent that indeed the VAT system is abused in this most offensive manner? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for these questions. The excess profit ruling, it was before called InfoCap, is a scheme to foster investment in Belgium known for decades. It basically was a one-sided intercompany transfer pricing adjustment, and that was offered to everyone who invested in Belgium. The EU now challenged that, and you certainly can discuss whether that is infringing state aid EU law. My view on that one is, as a taxpayer, we need certain investment conditions. If the EU is rightfully or wrongly, we will see that ultimately the European Court of Justice will decide that, because Belgium is also bringing this to court, will ultimately decide whether it's really infringing EU law. For us as a taxpayer, it would have been much better. We need security for our investment decisions. It would have been much better to challenge that if there's a risk that this is infringing state aid EU law, to do that at a rather early stage, rather than doing this after 10 or 15 years and confronting taxpayer who trusted on legally binding national Belgium laws after the fact. So I understand that there is a need for discussion. I would appreciate if the EU would do that in a timely manner to create certainty for investments, not only for European investors, but also for investors outside Europe coming to Europe. That is a notion that should not be overlooked. The second one, the VAT system in Europe is extremely technical and complicated. We administer that, and one of the reasons is that some provisions of the law invite to fraud. How do we prevent that? We run the European VAT system out of our shared service center in Berlin. We have a highly specialized workforce there and in the European countries that make sure that we do our VAT properly and right. We invested together with one big German IT company in developing a tool to ensure that we, and this costs a lot of money, much more than 10 million euros we invested in that tool, and with that we ensure that we comply with European VAT law. So it's a big investment for companies. The focus, this has nothing to do with tax planning, the focus is really compliance. It's not always easy given the complexity and the multi-jurisdiction. Yes, VAT is harmonized, but if you go to the detail, it's not. So we make that sure with appropriate allocation of resources that we comply with the law.